I'm aware that 95% of my viewers are skids. And guess what? That needs to change. Because now we have a mission. So my plan is to make the Ebola man community the smartest and most... Okay, basically we're just not going to be skids anymore. That's it. No more skid, okay? At least for now. So that's why this video is going to be the skids guide to C++. So you might be wondering why we're doing C++. And it's for a few reasons, mainly because it's used everywhere. I don't think most people understand that C++ is literally, it's used everywhere. It's crazy. And it's also really useful to know for cybersecurity. And it's also good for making your own tools. It's not going to be a full guide. I'm just going to go over some basics. I'm literally just going like off the top of my head for this video. I literally have like nothing prepared, but that's fine. I've been doing C++ for some years. They taught C++ at my school, so that's where I started doing it. And yeah, I've learned a decent amount and used it in my own like tools. So yeah, I'm qualified enough for the skids. So let's get right into it. No time wasted. So there are many different compilers that you can use. Me personally, Visual Studio, in my opinion, is the best. A lot of people will say, oh yeah, I use Visual Studio Code and download the GCC compiler. Bro, you don't need that. First of all, you're going to get a lot more errors. Trust me, if you get Visual Studio Code and you compile it on like by yourself, you're going to get more errors. You don't want to deal with that. Second of all, debugging and running it just in Visual Studio, even if it's a console app, is a lot easier. So my recommendation is just to get Visual Studio and to use that for C++. And you can actually also use Visual Studio for plenty of other things, other languages that I'm going to also be teaching. So I'd say just get this. Visual Studio. It's the way to go. So first you're going to have to download the installer. So I already have the community version installed, but I'm just going to show you what I have checked. So the installer is going to show you all these packages that you can install. The ones that I chose is C++, multiplat. You actually don't need this. And I chose .NET desktop development. And I think that's it. Oh yeah. And also if you want to do game dev, then you have Unity and game development with C++ here. So for C++, really all you need is this. So just desktop development with C++. I would also download .NET development because this stuff is also pretty useful, pretty fun. We're going to be using this in the future. But yeah, these two I'd say is basically all you need. Then you just click on install and you wait.
A few moments later.
Boom. So let's say you have it installed, Visual Studio. You're going to want to open it up and we're going to create a new C++ project. So go to create a new project. And over here you can choose different filters. And you just want to set the language one to C++. And you're going to see a few here like empty project. You want to choose console app. So you can either double click or click on next and then give it a name. So we're going to call this C++ For Skids. So click on create and boom, here you go. Here, I'll make it full screen. Oh yeah, and by the way, if you want to create comments, your own comments, you just have to go / and then you can type anything you want. So like, for example, leave a comment, say like, oh, this program was made by Ebola or anything else. But people usually use comments to explain the code. So like this outputs hello world to the console, something like this. So it explains what the code does if it's like complicated or some kind of loop. So let me just explain what exactly we're looking at. So first we're including IOStream. IOStream has the standard library and we're using standard library here to call the cout function, which is meant for outputting text to the console. And this is the main function. This is basically where every C++ program starts. You just do int main and whatever's in these curly brackets is the first thing that runs in your C++ program. So here to run this, you can just click on local Windows debugger and boom, we see that it outputs hello world. And yeah, so back to the standard library thing, something that you can do is just use the namespace. So you can say using namespace std. And basically, if you're doing that, you can get rid of this right here. You can just cout it, boom, same thing. And if you remove this, then it won't work and it's going to give you an error. But as a rule of thumb, it's good to keep std here and not use the namespace because it can lead to like other errors and issues in the future. And it just looks better. So just do this, come on. Or you're going to look like a skid and all the YouTube comments are going to bully you. And Ebola man will dislike your comment. Nah, I'm playing. So yeah, that's what cout does. It just outputs text to the console. And I think cout stands for console output. So if you do Control D, it repeats the line and you can just type whatever. Now this \n, this basically creates a new line. Another way to create a new line is to actually get rid of the semicolon and go another two. What the hell is that called? Bro, what the hell is that thing called? Okay, I'm just going to call them angle brackets. So you can add 2 angle brackets. This is basically what you use to like output more text. You can say like, hey, or whatever. But over here, we're going to type std and then endl. And what this does is that it does the same thing as creating a new line, but it also clears the buffer. I have no clue what that means, but it clears the buffer. But that's actually not a good thing. So we're going to get rid of this and just keep the new line. But that's just another option. But in general, having new line is better most of the time. So and below here, you can type whatever. So like, this is running in C++. Then Control S to save, and we run it. So boom, hello world, this is running in C++. Easy. Okay, next thing is variables. You might have heard of them, you might have not. We use them in batch, but in batch it's a little different because there is no variable type. It's just a variable can be anything, an integer, a character, a string, whatever. But over here, you have to specify the data type. So how it works is that first you specify the data type. So we're going to be creating an integer variable. So you just type int for integer and then the name of the variable. So I'm going to call it var and then semicolon. And now that variable is created, but it's not assigned to anything. It has no value. So if you want to initialize it right away, you can type equals and then give it some kind of number and then it'll be initialized. Or you can just create it and then type var equals whatever number it is. And this will also work. And we can output variables to the console too. So let's switch this out. Actually, let's get rid of hello world. Makes us look like skids. So we're going to see out the integer's value is, and then 2 angle brackets, and then we're going to type var. Then 2 more angle brackets, and we're going to just do \n for a new line. Or we can do a standard library, endl. But like I said before, as my C++ computer science teacher told me, it clears the buffer. So I guess just do this. All right, we're going to run it. The integer's value is 1337. Money. Now there are other variable types. There's many variable types. We can also have strings. So we can have string, name, and this can, oh, wait. I forgot. String is actually not its own data type. It's like an array of characters. And a character is just one letter. And it's part of the standard library. So we have to go std for standard library and call string like this. And now you just put quotes and we can say like ebola, and semicolon. And now Control D to double this and we can say your name is name. Like I said, there's plenty of other data types. There's Boolean for true or false. There's characters for 1 letter. There's floats for decimal points. There's double, which is basically like float. So yeah, there's many different data types that are useful in different cases. And it's good to learn all of them, actually. It's good to learn them. So now you might be thinking, okay, this whole code, it actually looks a little bit weird because we're not accepting any user input, right? We're just declaring, initializing variables, just outputting them. How do we actually accept user input? Boom, I'm happy you asked. So we have cout. We also have cin. Cin is how you accept user input. Now let's actually change this up. Since we're going to be accepting the name and we're going to be accepting an integer, we want to just have them declared, but not initialized. And let's change this to age. And we're basically going to say like your age is age and your name is name. This whole thing starts to make a little bit more sense. So calling standard library and then cin, and now you do the angle brackets but the other way. Then you type the variable that you're going to be inputting. So let's say, for example, it's going to be age first. And now we actually want to cout on top of that to just like say that we're inputting the age. So we're going to say enter your age. And then we can just copy these 2 and do the exact same thing for the name. So enter your name and have name here. Now this is going to look kind of weird because it's just going to be the input right after this. So you can put like equals or colon. I'm just going to have the colon. And since we're not creating a new line, the input's going to be like right here. But after the cin, it does create a new line. So this won't be like on top of everything. All right, so let's try this out. So enter your age. I'm 23. And enter your name, Ebola. Your age is 23. Your name is Ebola. I'm not 23. That was a joke. If you actually thought I'm 23, I mean, I'll take that as a compliment, but I'm not 23. And around this stage, it's good to play around, right? So input different things different data types, see in and see out at different points, and basically just get comfortable with this. And next is going to be conditional statements. So your ifs, your else's, we're going to get into that. So for the age, let's say our program checks if you're above the age of 18 or not. So we're going to say if age is less than 18, then we're going to say you are a minor. So the syntax is pretty simple. You just go if, and then in the brackets, you have the conditional statement, and then curly brackets, and you basically type any code, and whatever you type in here happens if the conditional statement is true. Now, if it isn't true, you can just leave it and nothing's going to happen if you're above the age of 18. Or you could say else, create curly brackets, and then you can see out and say you are a adult. Okay, now let me just add a dash and so it doesn't get messy. And here, let's run this. So enter your age. Let's say I'm going to be 14, right? EDP's target demographic. Then you are a minor. So enter your name, ebola, and it goes on. Now, let's say I'm above the age of 18. So let's say I'm 90. You are an adult. Easy peasy. So you can actually have multiple conditional statements. So if you go and you can have two things. So you can say like if you're under 18 and you're, let's say, over 16. Actually, wait, no, it's like 14. So like if you're under 18 and over 14, you can say like you are a teenager, right? Something like this. And you can also put or. So or is like two lines. I forgot what they're called. But basically it's if you're under 18 or over 14, then you're a minor. So this actually doesn't make sense, but you know, you get the point. You can use and you can use or. So if you're anything like me, you're looking at this and you're thinking, wow, this is a mess. What the hell is going on here? This looks ugly as shit. So we're going to clean this up. We're going to make it look nice and pretty. And how are we going to do that? Okay, yeah, you can like optimize things, change things. No, we're going to be using functions. No, not that type of function. A C++ function. Simple. They confuse some people, but they're simple. So let me explain. So this whole int main right here, this is a function. We're actually supposed to be returning a value at the end. Return 0. This is a proper function, int main. Now, we can have other functions too. Poor microphone, bro. Past 3 videos, I've been abusing this thing. So creating a function is pretty simple. You just want to go on top of the main function, because if you go under, then it's not going to be able to call it. And we want to call that function. So we're going to go above int main. And to create a function, we basically want to specify a data type. So we see for int main, it's integer. Let's just call it int2. We're going to say int age. And then have these two parentheses. And these basically take in any sort of arguments. So if you wanted to pass along some variables, you could do that. And then we do curly brackets. And here we go. This is our age function. Okay, so this is what I'm thinking. We're going to input the age, then we're going to call the age function, and we're going to move over all of this stuff there. So we see in the age, and then we're going to call the function. And calling it is as easy as just putting in the function name, parentheses, and then the variable that you want to pass on, and then semicolon. Oh, wait. Okay, no, things are going to get kind of confusing. We're going to say age calculation, because having repeated names like age is not a good practice. Things can go wrong. So yeah, we're switching things up. So now it's going to give us an error, and it's like too many arguments in function call. That's because we actually have to create like a receiver. We have to create a variable that's going to be, yeah. So in here, we're just going to type int age. And now let's say we pass along 18. That's going to be saved here. And the name doesn't have to be the same. We can actually call this anything. We can be like, just call this variable. And let's say we pass along age, and the age was inputted as 7. Now var is going to equal 7 in this function. The reason why we have arguments is because just because you specified age here doesn't mean you can access it here. So if you try to see out age, it's going to give us an error, because you can see out it here. It's declared here, initialized here. It's used in this function, but not here. So now we're going to move over some of the code. This right here, we're going to move it over. If variable is less than 18, you are a minor. If not, then you are an adult. Okay, then it enters the name. We don't really need a function for anything else. We could have an output function, but it's kind of stupid, no point. So now int, this data type, it's actually the return type. So it's going to be what we're going to be returning. So we can return like any number, but usually what's returned is like an error code. So let's say if things go wrong, you return 1. If things go well, you return 0. So let's say like if you're a minor, return 0. So yeah, we're just calling the function. We don't need to use the return value. And if you have nothing to return, then you don't actually need a data type. You can type void. And what this means is that you don't return any sort of value. Yeah, this looks fine. This looks a lot cleaner. And also you learned how to do functions. So let's run this. Enter your age. I'm going to say 17. You're a minor. Enter your name, ebola. Boom. And you could have an unlimited amount of functions. You can have so many functions and just call them for different things. And yeah, and you can actually call a function from a function and have a recursive function, which is basically a function calling itself. Anyway, with functions, it gets pretty deep, but just know that they're kind of essential to know. Okay, so the last thing that I'm going to be showing you today is while loops, because yeah, I just wanted to show the basics, but while loops, they're kind of the basics. So you kind of need to know how to do a loop. I'm going to be honest. So first, I'll show the syntax of while loops. Basically, all you do is type while, parentheses, curly brackets, and while whatever condition is here, whatever code is in the curly brackets will run. So if you type, for example, while true, this will be an infinite loop. So whatever code you type here, it'll just run over and over and over and over and over, and it won't stop. It'll just run forever. So here's an example. This might make your CPU explode, but it runs whatever you put in here forever. And really fast too. This is why C++ is used everywhere. It is so fast. This is really similar to the if statements, whatever condition you put here. So you can put like while something is less than something, or whatever. So let's say we want to loop something 5 times. Let's say we have an integer a and we're going to assign it to 0. So we say while a is less than 5, this loop is going to run. And we have like our code that does stuff. And in the end, we're going to say a++, which increments a by 1. So if a is 1, it'll equal 2. If a is 2, it'll equal 3. If a is 5, it'll equal 6. You can also type a equals a plus 1. It's the exact same thing, except a++ is just easier, faster. So that means whatever is in this loop will run 5 times. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And once it gets to 5, it's going to break the condition and it's going to continue on with the code. So we can type this is line and we can say a. We're going to use endl here. So this is just going to see out this is line and then the value of a. So it's going to be, it's going to output this is line 0, this is line 1, 2, 3, whatever. And all this code, this is kind of in the way now since I'm showing something else. So the way we can comment it out is just go / and then just copy this one and put it here. And none of this code is going to run. We just commented it out. So we're going to run. Boom. This is line 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, loops are very useful if you want to repeat a few things, So now we're actually going to integrate this while loop to work with our code. Man, a do while loop would be useful here. I'm just going to show one more thing. It's basically the exact same thing as a while loop. And it would be really useful here. It's a do while loop. And all you do is you type do, whatever's in the code, whatever's in the loop, and then while, and you have your condition right here. So it's basically the same thing, except the only difference is if you do a do while loop, whatever's in the code loop, it'll run at least once before checking the while condition. So over here, it checks it right away. And since we don't have that age right away, that's it gets in the way. We don't want that. So we're gonna put this here. It's basically the same thing. And now we're gonna input the age. So we're gonna say enter your age, stdcin, and then we're gonna cin age. And now let's run it. So it says enter your age. Let's say we're gonna type something below. I'm gonna say 12. It's gonna keep asking. So 11, 10, whatever, however old you are. And let's say you finally type like, boom, now you're in the program. You can say something else and boom, the program goes through. So you're stuck in this loop as long as the age variable is less or equal to 13. I hope that wasn't too confusing, but you should be good. And if anything, this shouldn't be your main resource, right? This is just a simple introduction with some Ebola man. Anyway, I would recommend, if you do want to continue learning C++, to check out either Bro Code on YouTube. I actually love him. Or learnc++.com or whatever the website is. It's basically like Learn C++. And it's a really good website, and it runs you through like all of this and a lot more, like everything you need to know. If after watching this video you're like, I'm starting to like this, something clicked for me. I feel like C++ is gonna be my new language now. Quitting batch for the better, of course. So yeah, if you want to keep learning, Bro Code, learnc++.com, just grind out C++. The best way is to set up like a project, like some kind of project that you want to make. Let's say you want to create a multi-tool in C++. You're like, okay, that's my goal. Boom, multi-tool in C++. And then you learn different things that you need to create that multi-tool. After learning some basics, of course. And then you move on to your next project. Like, oh, now I want to make this. And you learn what you need to do for that. And that's how I learned. I just had different projects, different goals, and I learned skills while achieving them. So that's what worked the best for me. It was the funnest, and I learned a lot from it. So yeah, hope that helped you out. See you in the next vid. Like, sub. I love you. Peace.